Okay, let's bring in retired NYPD Lieutenant Joe Cardinale and former FBI special agent and Fox News contributor Nicole Parker. Joe, to you first on the brand new information just in, as we are now confirming per our sources, these two names that were being given, Robin Westman and Robert Westman. We are being told that the shooter may have used both names.
Well, I guess they'll just find out if he had any affiliation with that school under either name, and they'll search both those names to see if there was any kind of hint or reason for what this person did today. But make no mistake about it, Sandra, evil did visit the school today, and as we suspected, it was from the outside. And one point that I heard early, and I would love to know if it was confirmed, that he chocked the doors from the outside. That's very telling because it tells you that he had planned this in maybe different stages. Maybe he wanted to block the doors, throw that smoke bomb in, and unblock them and get them as they came out. You don't know, but this was very well planned by this person. He had every intent to cause as much carnage as he could, and the stained glass windows, may have caused most of those injuries. But the fact that he did that during mass, it's troublesome to me as a Catholic. I sit next to the stained glass windows every Sunday, and each one depicts something, either the Stations of the Cross or something else. But it's very, it's very religious for us, and I really feel that I'm so glad that this person is no longer around to cause any more damage.
Nicole, what are you hearing from your colleagues who may still be in federal law enforcement about why the suspect would have used the two names, Robin and Robert? Can you glean anything at all from that?
Well, I can't say that I've spoken to anyone that I've worked with about that, but I think that we can all tell this person is clearly confused. And it seems that this might be a little similar to what we've seen in the past, such as the Nashville school shooting. This person may be transgender. It might be a little confused. There might be a manifesto. There might be a note. There might be some anger. And so I think it'll be very important for law enforcement to look into those potential clues. But again, honing in on what Joe said, we cannot underestimate how disgusting this violence is. Because again, not only did they select the most vulnerable individuals. I don't know about you, but I'm a woman of faith, and I really appreciate the opportunity to go to church and to worship. And to me, that's my safe place. As an FBI agent, that's where I went to escape the chaos of the world and to feel comfort and to feel God's love. Imagine being a child and you're at your safe space at church and you're getting killed and getting shot at your church. It's unacceptable. It is disgusting. But again, it's important to know, and it's kind of floating around right now. We always want to be careful before anything is confirmed. But it appears that there might have been certain things posted on their social media site, whether it was Robin or Robert or whatever their name was. Again, they're very, very confused. And I think that confusion is probably part of what played into their grievance. But there is information out there that this person might have had some anti-Trump sentiments, had writings on clips, potentially talking about President Trump and harming President Trump. And so law enforcement will look into that very, very closely. But as I mentioned initially, weapon selection and everything about the weapon is very, very important to law enforcement. If there were writings on the clips that were used, there was pre-planning that went into it, and that is very, very powerful evidence that will lead back to motive. It will lead back to grievance. And so again, anything that was found in the immediate, area of the crime scene, the vehicle, a treasure trove of information. But they'll be going through all electronic devices, text messages, phone calls, any social media postings. Who were they interacting with? Who were their parents? Did this person go to school? Did they work? What was their relation to this Catholic Church? Had they been religious? Did they feel like they were ostracized by religion because of their lifestyle choices? It's too soon to know, but the FBI, Minneapolis Police Department, and all law enforcement will work collectively. And I have a feeling that they will come up with a very strong profile, and the Behavioral Analysis Unit will delve into this information, and we should expect much more evidence coming out of this.
And Nicole, we should just note, obviously, when law enforcement officials give out a name, it's only natural to look online and see what can be learned about this person, potentially about their motive, but law enforcement hasn't put anything out about that yet. And to the question of their sexual identity, gender identity, also don't know. For instance, someone might use two names if they had a juvenile record, and then that was under seal. There are a lot of reasons that could be the case, which obviously law enforcement is patching together right now, but a lot swirling around on the internet, and we do need to await confirmation from the powers that be before we give any of that
Jackie, we're
any
learning
credibility.
about that
Go
a
ahead.
little bit more right now, actually. It appears that we've obtained the petition to change names and the order granting the petition. This from the shooter back in 2019, changing his legal name from Robert to Robin. This clearly, as I read through it, the case information here identifies a minor child identifying as female, wanting to name her change to reflect the identification. So the name change docs are certainly there, and we have confirmed that. I also want to highlight the live shot of the White House right now. As we do, Joe, see the flag flying at half-staff. The president just issued a proclamation ordering the flags to be flown at half-staff in the wake of these shootings in Minneapolis. Joe, your thoughts?
Well, rightfully so. I applaud the president for doing that. Going back to what you just said about the name change for a gender identity there, I'm sure the two names being out there, people are going to start calling in saying, listen, I remember this individual, or I know as of late that this person was complaining about X, Y, and Z, and they'll get a lot more information from that as well. So it's important that they put the two names out there. But this individual definitely had a connection there. There's no doubt in my mind that the connection could be exactly what Nicole said, that this person was ostracized by the church for for the reasons that you may have just mentioned. And he took the cowardly way out by, killing innocents over there. So I really think that that's something, it's just a coward's act, and evil never got into the church, but it sure caused a lot of damage.
Can you describe for us, Nicole, what we're seeing on our screen right now? Just what might we see for the rest of the afternoon play out in this community where obviously we're still learning a lot about the suspect and the motive, but this is the beginning of a long road for those families too. And there's still yellow crime scene tape up. What does it look like on the ground in the next 24, 48 hours in your experience?
Jackie, you're exactly right, because there are multiple things going on right now. Obviously, there's a crime scene, but there's the human element. And what you're seeing, that caution tape, they've set up the perimeter that no one will be crossing over. But what they have is something called a reunification center or a reunification location. And that's where you're seeing a lot of these images where young children are being reunited with a guardian or with a parent or with a caretaker. And that is so important. We cannot underestimate the fear that these children have undergone. And for them to be reunited with their parent or their loved one is very important. But sadly, there are two individuals whose lives were taken, and their loved ones, they will never be reunited with them. And there are others who are in the hospital receiving medical care. And so it is a very important part of the law enforcement process after any mass shooting, and particularly with schools involving minors, because you do have to interview witnesses. As awful and tragic as it is, these young children, they are now witnesses to a horrific crime. And many times they will be interviewed. And when it's interviews of minors, law enforcement treats it very differently. I know at the FBI, we have child forensic interviewers, and they are specifically trained to interview minors who have been witnesses to crimes and have been victims of crimes. And so I'm assuming that at the appropriate time, whether it's now or later, when necessary, law enforcement will talk to those that were witnesses to gather evidence for their investigation. But remember that the shooter is dead. So this case will not be going to trial. It will not be seen in a courtroom. And so I think that law enforcement will spare these young children as much as possible as having to retell, because every time you have to retell this, it's extremely traumatic. So they'll do what they need to do in order to conduct their investigation. But this reunification that you're seeing on your screen is very, very important. And this is when these children that have just seen the worst nightmare of their life can finally feel the love of a parent or a loved one or a guardian who can help them. And I know that as a parent, there's nothing, like I've said, there's nothing worse than sending your child off to school and wondering if they're going to come home. I mean, this is a private Catholic school. They were at mass. This cannot continue in our country.
That's for sure. Joe, when do you expect we'll hear from police next? We got a pretty thorough update from the hospital, from the police chief. That was at about 12 and 12 o'clock hour. Do you imagine we'll get another press conference here soon?
I think later on this evening, towards the early evening, you'll find out, a lot more about this. The hospital will touch base with the police department. They'll give them their updates, and then they'll come out with possibly about the weapons, a little more about the weapons, a little more about the background on this individual. And to another point that you just brought up a few moments ago, I agree with Nicole. They'll spare the children from this. And what happens in these cases, we find out that maybe a week later, a month later, the children will relate things to their parents and say something, who can also bring that back to the police. And also remember that there were adults in that room, in the church, that were with the children, and they'll rely on them more than the children to, tell them exactly at what time and everything else and put the pieces together. But this is going to go on for a while. They'll clear that area, and it's a shame that, as I said before, that a church has to be a crime scene.
Yeah, we are looking at these documents that we've gotten in, and as Sandra mentioned earlier, it appears that when this suspect was 17, about 6 months before their 18th birthday, got approval from the court for a legal name change from Robert to Robin, under the argument that the minor child identifies as a female and wants to be identified as such. So a lot more information coming out on so many fronts this afternoon, Sandra.
All right. Jackie, thank you so much. Joe, Nicole, thank you for standing by with us through the breaking news. We do hope to get an update, especially from the hospital here, on these patients who were brought into the emergency room, multiple emergency rooms. We hope to get an update on them shortly. We're praying for them.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.